Cool. Well, hello everyone. Hello chat. Hello stream. We're back at it again. We got another film discussion. This is the fifth time, episode 5. Today's film is called The Family Stone. It is a comedy drama film that takes place. You can call it a Christmas movie, right? Yeah, it's a Christmas movie. Um,
Yeah, I think so.
ow. Ooh, whoops. Sorry. Yeah, it's a Christmas movie. Um, and it's uh, it's basically about the premise of the film is about this. There's a whole family gathering during Christmas, and one of the I guess children of the family, the eldest son, or I don't know, like
Yeah,
he brings
yeah.
home his girlfriend for his family to meet, or not necessarily meet, but to just during first time for Christmas. Um,
No, this to me, right? Yeah, it's the
no, I think
situation thing.
I think his girlfriend has met some of them
No.
individually before.
Oh well, yeah, yeah. Amy,
Uh,
the younger
Amy,
sister.
yeah. But for the most part, meet his family, and then um, yeah, there's a big sorts of events. The family doesn't really like their personalities don't match together between the girlfriend and the family. Bit of drama, but also a lot of comedy intertwined, and it's a fun film. I enjoyed it a lot. It has stars some prominent actors. We got like Diane Keaton as the mother, um,
Sybil. Yeah.
Sybil, who's like the mother of um, or I guess grandmother, depending, because there was a younger, yeah, but there's like a younger child, but yeah, and then we have like Craig Nelson, who's like the father, and then um, there's yeah, it has like other people that I'm not as familiar with. Oh, apparently it has Luke Wilson, who is Owen Wilson's brother.
Yeah, yeah.
And I okay, so this is weird because I when I saw Luke Wilson, he plays Ben. Um, I he looked really familiar, and I was like, I don't know where I've seen this person. And then I looked at the his filmography, and I don't think I've seen his films or like any like maybe I don't like really prominently remember watching his films. Then I realized that he's the brother of Owen Wilson. I was like, oh, that's okay. I knew he looked kind of familiar because he reminds me of Owen Wilson. Anyway, he plays Ben, who's one the younger brother of the family, and then we have oh, and also like there's also Rachel McAdams. These are guys like the people that I'm like most familiar with in terms of the cast out of the family who are known the Stones, the Family Stone. That's why it's called the Family Stone. Um, and then yeah, we also have like Sarah Jessica Parker, who is like Meredith, who is the girlfriend. Um, Another fun fact: Claire Danes plays um, her sister, our Meredith's sister, Julie. And actually, we have seen Claire Danes before. She played Beth in and Little Woman. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh,
Yeah, but
she did. You're right. You're
but
right.
she this film was set 10 years or released almost 10 years later, more than 10 years later than Little Woman. So like we when we saw um, Claire Danes as Beth in The Little Women, she was like much younger, but she
Yeah.
does play. This is our technically our second time seeing her act, so it's pretty cool. Um, but yeah, those are some fun facts about the cast, if you wanted to know. Um, But yeah, this film is a comedy drama. It's a Christmas movie. It's about his family trying to get to know the son's girlfriend Meredith a lot more, um, and seeing their interactions and seeing some events unfold that we'll talk about. And then keep in mind that there will be spoilers. So if you haven't seen the movie, well, I recommend you watch it. It's free on IMDb TV with ads, and yeah, we just get started. Austin, thoughts? What are your thoughts? How did you like this
My
movie?
thoughts. Uh, I think I'm gonna contrast with you because I did not like this movie at all.
Okay.
Uh,
All right, all right, all right.
um, yeah, I thought this movie was kind of a mess, and I just did not enjoy it. I thought there was a lot going on that did not make sense to me, and a lot of the times I was cringing a lot during the whole movie. It was I couldn't take it. Sometimes I really just wanted to walk away and stop watching. I was like, I gotta power through it
Okay.
and keep watching. It it did not work well with me at all. Like in terms of how things worked out, the way some of the characters interacted with each other. I did not I did not appreciate. And I just thought there's some warm moments in the movie. I think that worked well. But I think for the whole movie I was just like cringing, and I couldn't stand it at all. It's just like the way things they were doing, what characters were doing.
Yeah.
It just did not work for me. So initial thoughts, person, I didn't enjoy it. There's just a lot. There are a lot of times like with the story, I think there's like a lot of drama, and that's the point, right? It's a comedy drama, but the drama itself, I just there are times where it just got too dramatic, I think, and just too crazy, and there from a comedic effect, all this irony going on, like the brothers like liking different girls at the same time, and it just didn't sit too well with me. And there were some heartwarming moments near in the middle, which that touched me. I think just it did well, but I also think the music added to it.
Mm-hmm.
The music was by Michael Giacchino, who did a lot of movies that we know, Pixar movies, and a lot of he also did Spider-Man, the Marvel MCU version of Spider-Man. He was the composer of that. So some of the music I think I really appreciated, and I think he also lifted a lot of some of these heartwarming moments.
Yep.
But other than those points, it just this movie just I cannot wrap my head around or comprehend. So I think that's my initial thoughts, and maybe we can maybe go in later on and talk about different scenes.
Right. Yeah, we're gonna talk about some scenes.
I'm freaking out.
Yeah.
But those are my initial thoughts. Before we go on, I just want to hear about yours.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So you didn't like the movie because it was like there were parts that were overly dramatic. You said, right?
Overly dramatic, and there's just a lot of points in the film where I was cringing a lot, and it just felt really uncomfortable.
Okay.
And then sometimes like the reactions afterwards just did not make sense to me.
Okay. Maybe I have to talk. I'm gonna go into more specific scenes because maybe the ones that you think are like too traumatic or too cringy, I thought was hilarious. So like
I think it's. So you like the movie, right?
I did enjoy the movie. I did enjoy the movie a lot. There are specific scenes I was like, I thought it was like the humor was very like well done in terms of like the timing and the comedic effect of it. I thoroughly enjoyed the movie because of its comedy factor. The drama was like, I think the drama kind of balanced out the comedy parts. Like it gave the like it kind of sort of went back and forth between like serious moments and like non-serious moments, which I think is like kind of like necessary for a good comedy, because you need those moments to sort of like refresh, to build up for like the good funny moments.
With some breaks, and it goes up and down. Right?
It goes up and down, exactly. So for me at least, what I enjoyed about the movie, there was one scene in particular. There was one in particular where I literally like I was laughing so much I paused the movie, and I was like I just had to like take a step back because it was so funny. And this is one of those movies where it's like weird. It's like usually when I pause a movie, it's like a bad sign because it kind of like I'm like breaking the flow of it. But this time I was laughing so much that I had to pause it and to like make sure I don't miss the next scenes or whatever. But the one where in the very near the end, when like she does the outburst, like Meredith does the whole like outburst of like, oh yeah, I don't want to marry you, or like I slept with Ben or something. And then Everett, who's like his I guess at the time girlfriend or boyfriend, sorry, was like, oh, I don't want to marry you. And like, wait, what? You slept with Ben? And then she goes off to like, she just stomps away to get to the kitchen to get like the stuff that she was prepared for the Christmas meal that day. And then like Everett starts chasing Ben like in a wild like cat and mouse around the house. And then the mother, Sybil, and Amy, who's like the youngest daughter, yes, they go and try to like console Meredith, but then they like run into her, and then like the whole thing just tops over. Like the dish that Meredith was trying to pull out of the fridge, they just like run into her, and then like she drops it, and then it's all this like physical comedic drama activity where they all slip, and then there's like this whole like cat and mouse between Everett and Ben running on that, and then it cuts to the living room, which is where the action all started, and that's where like Ben is like Amy's like romantic interest, who kind of is he arrives like near the end of the film to say hi. And there's Julie, who is like the sister of Meredith. Like they're just sitting on the couch, and they've never met each other, and then they say like, "Oh hi, I'm Ben," and then she's like, "I'm Julie," and then it cuts back to like the chaos in the house between like all the rest of the characters, and I just thought that timing was perfect. Like I was like, that made me laugh so hard, because it was like it went into this like subtle like dig of like, oh, these characters actually haven't met before, and now they're meeting for the first time in this very chaotic sequence of events. And I just thought it was hilarious how that timing of that like really like like what in normal circumstances is supposed to be an ordinary interaction is just like sandwiched between all this chaos. I don't know. I really liked it. That's something that I was like, yeah.
The timing was good for that. The acting was good for that. I'll agree with you.
So like that was one particular scene that I really enjoyed. And then like I don't know. I thought the cast overall had like pretty decent chemistry. Like I actually enjoyed Meredith's acting. Like Sarah Jessica Parker, I believe. Yeah.
Parker. Yeah.
She was like the she played Meredith, who was very like uptight. And that sort of personality contrasts with the rest of the family, who's very like relaxed and chill and whatnot. So like I actually really enjoy that chemistry a lot, personally. And yeah, like I don't know. That was one scene, like the one scene I described was like what I really enjoyed in terms of like the sort of like comedy that kind of came out of this film. But I'm curious to know like which parts you thought were like overly dramatic.
Overly, it's not just over the dramatic, just like a lot of cringe. I think
cringe, yeah, cringy. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you know, I guess that the not the first, but the first time we started watching movies, like, oh, it's a Christmas movie. It's after the season, right? I was like, okay, sets me up. They set up the relationship good, right? Right at the beginning, right? We have Meredith, who's on the phone, always talking, kind of closing a business deal.
Yeah.
And it sets up the relationship that they're not really, they don't really mesh well together. Or she seems kind of overbearing, right? And he's just trying to, deal with it. But I think what the first got to me was actually the introduction of Ben's character, right? We kind of realize, right, how he is attracted to Meredith, and you kind of see that he is kind of in awe with her, and I was just like, oh no, like there's going to be this kind of like family dynamic where the brother is going after the other brother's girlfriend. And I just didn't like that. I just like, oh my gosh, like this is going to be a lot of drama. It's going to be needed. It's going to break up the family dynamic. So just that first introduction just kind of threw me out there. But I would have to say that the way that the relationships formed or how they could progress, kind of how they showed it kind of made sense, right? In terms of, okay, you have Ben, who kind of was trying to flirt with Meredith, which is kind of weird at the same time, because I thought this family was close, right? They have a lot of siblings, right? There's at least 4 or 5, I think. 1, 2.
There is 4 children. Two sons, 2 daughters. Yeah.
2 daughters. Yeah. So no, 3 sons.
3 sons, 2 daughters.
3 sons.
2 sons, 2 daughters.
Yeah. So 5. We have 5 siblings, right? And I thought they were pretty close. They seemed pretty close when they kept together. And then you have Ben who joins in, and that's just like, oh, that that's a very interesting dynamic. But then Ben was obviously trying to flirt with a girlfriend. I was just like, why would the brother do this? It was kind of yeah, I thought, kind of, scummy to do, right? Like, like that he would, flirt with his, the girlfriend that his brother ever was introducing, to the rest of the family.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't like that aspect. And then, but you obviously saw how they kind of connected, right? Because once he asked her a question of how they met, that's when Meredith starts talking about all Hong Kong and how they met. And she before that she was like really tight, and very reclusive and didn't really talk. But once Ben prompted the conversation, we saw that she just started talking and talking. She was comfortable, but she was talking about how they met and everything, what they did afterwards. So we saw, right, that there's she felt comfortable in that environment. But again, this Ben character, right, he was very very forward, with Meredith in terms of trying to touch her, trying to be close with her, complimenting her, on her looks. You see here him staring at her a lot. And sometimes I think it just some of the levels it kind of went towards kind of inappropriate levels. I feel like, especially that scene where she's in the car, and they're about to, when they're about to leave for the inn.
Yep.
He gives her the coffee cup, right, and he just stands in front of her window, right?
Yeah,
and
that was really awkward.
He's just presenting his his junk. It was just like so awkward. He's just like putting it in front of the window. And then he's just like, oh, I had a dream about you. It's like, oh, what's doing that? I was like, oh, what? Like, it just that this whole dynamic.
I thought that was pretty funny.
I just thought it was uncomfortable and whatnot. And maybe that's just this day and age, different, comedy works, is a product of its time, right? This movie was made back in I think 2005, right? Yeah, so this was a while ago. So they're definitely I mean it's still probably not. I mean, it is not right, but she's someone acting like that. But at the same time, the times were different, right? But still, I just could not appreciate that scene. And then one scene that really stuck out to me was the whole homophobic rant that Meredith was going on about, right? So that whole scene that made me uncomfortable. Well, not uncomfortable. I mean, she was digging herself in the hole, and that made sense. I was like, okay, this would be what breaks. At least Meredith away from the whole family, because the whole family had Thad, right? Thad was gay, and was married or had a husband. No, I don't think they were married at that time because of the whole laws, right? Oh,
yeah, I don't know if they could. I don't know if they were.
Yeah, I don't think they
legally
at that time,
but...
right? Because he had a boyfriend, right, or a partner. And she was just going down on it, digging herself deeper and deeper in her hole, and say, oh, I don't, why would you want to wish your son was gay? Because you want your child to be normal and have a not a difficult life. And then she brings in her Thad's partner's because Thad's partner's Patrick, right? His name is, yes.
Patrick,
and he was black, right? And she's like, oh, like you should understand it, and because of how you don't want your child to have all these difficult. And it just, she kept digging herself in the hole, and just saying how it's not normal. Like you want your child to have a normal life, and she just really dug herself into a hole at that point, which kind of set off the whole family, right? Because the whole family's very sensitive and wants to show that he's loved, he's accepted by his family, because he probably went through a lot growing up, being gay and being different in his social environment. So someone else coming in, trying to say that he's not normal, and obviously affected him. He was kind of down afterwards until Sybil, the mother, told him that I love you and whatnot. But there's definitely and then the thing was Thad is also deaf, right? So she also was kind of I mean, I maybe she it's hard to how do you deal with that situation, because she doesn't know how to sign. The whole family does, but so she really did not that at that point I was just like, okay, that was pretty bad. And this whole family was became defensive, right? Everybody except for Ben. He was the only one who said, oh yeah, don't worry about it. He didn't really care about it, and he kind of ignored it. But it kind of, I think, affected the rest of the family. It even affected Everett, right? Like he kind of realized, like, oh, this is not somebody who want to be with, and she doesn't really appreciate his family, and the rest of the family didn't like it. And I thought that was a really sticking point, right? Someone who does not accept, and that point wasn't really resolved. I mean, yes, during the bar scene, she's like, oh, I'm not homophobic, I love the gays and all that, but just her whole rant, right, was not really kind of resolved, right? Ben kind of glosses over, the whole family also kind of glosses over this whole kind of thing, and she gets together with Ben, and you see her in the following year at the Christmas party. But I don't think anybody really I mean, maybe that's just how families are. They now that they're together, like, oh, we have to accept her, but she just it just don't really. I just thought the family kind of just glossed it over, like, oh, this homophobic person in the family who just doesn't accept or about child, or doesn't accept it, or wants to thinks of it in a different way and a different light than the rest of the family does, especially when one of the family members is part of the LGBTQ community. So that whole scene kind of threw me off, and it just didn't work for me. And then I think what really the biggest icing or the topping on the cake that really just got me like not going for this movie was the whole dynamic where, again, well, the whole the brother, Ben, going after his his other brother's girlfriend, and then Everett going for the sister during the whole Christmas time, and then falling immediately in love when they just first met, which is kind of weird because he was put together with Meredith for the whole time, and then all of a sudden he finally meets this other girl and instantly falls for her. And I just didn't think that was too realistic, and I just thought, or if it was, again, maybe that character itself just that did not work well with me. Just how again, like it wasn't very loyal, and it just he was he dropped Meredith at the job that had, oh, this is the girl, and was trying to going to her women. The whole family kind of revolves around Julie at that point, right? They all you can see the difference how they treat Julie to how they treat Meredith. They really like Julie, and she was seemed like a little bit more not as uptight, more she was like an art director, or screens art projects, right? So she was accepted, but it just there's different a contrast, and Julie kind of seemed to be more agreeable with the family's views, but it was just that the way that Everett just kind of like gets swoons over her. I was just like, oh no, like I just didn't like that whole cross stand, like, oh, he liked another girl and he liked another guy, and then this whole family record. So, and then they kind of are okay with it at the end, and they have the whole family thing. So there's just like a lot of moments where just the reaction of the family just did not sit well with me, how they reacted with some of these situations, or how some of the characters just acted. I would admit, as you said, that some of the comedic timing was better, but I think some of the comedy, maybe my sense of humor is just very tight, and I don't appreciate some of these moments or elements. That's why I really don't like comedy movies, because I don't have sometimes I just what other people find really, really funny or hilarious, I just think it's like immature, or just immature, or just like I just don't find it funny at all. And that's why comedy for me is it's like one thing. I either really, really like it, or I just really don't dislike it. And most of the time I just like I sit there and just like I'm not enjoying myself some of these comedy movies. But this was a big one. I just could not go through the movie, just the reactions. But instead of just talking the negative, some of the positives too. I think the whole scene when Sybil was revealing that she was sick, right? Or she she was going to she had some kind of sickness. I don't know if that was ever touched upon, but when she was telling that to Everett, I thought that was really touching, right? He kind of appreciates his mom at that point, and hugs her and says he loves her. I thought that was a really, really touching scene, and the music kind of swells there as well, and I thought that was really great, and that really stood out to me. Just that heart connection moment between mother and son, actually, after they had had this disconnect, and then obviously after that it kind of goes into a funny moment afterwards. But I thought just that moment was really, really nice. Yeah. And then another scene that really stood out to me was actually when Everett and Julie got together. And the reason why it stood out to me was actually because of the music. I thought that, there was a swell in the music, and it really, really stood out to me. And maybe at this point I was just more tuned to other elements of the movie, because I was just not into it at that point. But the music really swelled. You can hear the violins, and just how it kind of was a very positive theme, like, oh, they're all getting together, he misses her, and and they can finally be together. I just thought that scene was really well done. Even though I didn't want these characters, to or get together so quickly. When she left on the bus, I was like, oh, that's funny. I thought like, oh, they kind of expect, maybe I assumed that they're going to get back together like at a later point in time. Not that I thought that time it kind of got like, oh, she goes away, but then I
the
saw
bus
the bus was going to stop. I knew that was going to happen at that point when he's looking at the bus, like, okay. But at the first moment when the bus pulled away, she wasn't there. I was like, ha! That was I just appreciate that moment. Yeah.
Yeah. So at least, I mean, you touch on some decent points. Like there was, like if you for this film, I think if you kind of like take the film seriously, there can be a lot to dislike about it. I think like for me at least, like I kind of knew that it was a lighthearted film. It was meant to be more of so a lighthearted film with some like dramatic moments. And there are the parts where you were like, oh, Ben, the little brother, was like going after Everett's girlfriend. There were like parts that were kind of like awkward. Like for instance, when he was standing next to giving her the mug in the outdoors and just standing next to her while she's in the car, that was a little bit like, huh? What's going on there? It was a bit weird. But like, and then of course like when Everett meets Julie for the first time, and then there's like that dynamic. But the thing is that like, it was already kind of like hinted that Everett and Meredith weren't like really compatible. Like from the very get-go, it felt very like forced for their relationship, and the family also didn't necessarily approve as much, especially Sybil, the mother. She was like, yo, I want Everett went the first one of the first serious discussions was like, Everett was like, Mom, I want your wedding ring, I want your blessing. Mom's like, nah. Nope. She's not though. She's no. And then Everett's like, and that's sort of like, that kind of spawns the whole like tension between the two throughout the film until the very end when Sybil, or the mother, discloses that she is sick or with, I think, cancer or something that she had. I don't know if it was ever divulged in the film, but at least according
I think it might have been breast cancer.
It was breast cancer.
Scene, right? Yeah. Where the wife and Sybil was with the husband, right? And then she's revealing her scar.
Oh, chest, okay. So it was never like, she never actually like said it. It was just contextual. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I think.
So that's that scene where like the mother disapproved. Like basically like the whole family just hated Meredith's guts, and like, and then and the whole like, the part where Everett was trying to console the whole time, but like, it at least to me just never felt like they really never really clicked, and that was actually very prominent from the very first scene. I don't know if you remember the very, very first scene. I'm going to talk about the very first scene because I was actually really confused about the very first scene. One of the first few scenes. But the very first scene is when they're going shopping, holiday shopping. Everett is trying to choose something, a sweater or something, something, a clothing. Yeah. So like maybe like a sweater or some article of clothing, right? And he chooses one of the colors, and then Meredith is like on the phone, like in her own world, just like doing business or something, whatever, or like I don't know who she's talking to, but then she comes in, and she's like, "We want the red one," and then Everett's like, "Okay," like there was already like that, like, wait, okay, this doesn't seem like a very, no, I wouldn't say healthy, but like, they seem aloof. Like there wasn't a lot of like chemistry, compatibility to them two between the two, at least from my impression. In that very first scene, I'm just like, oh, okay, these two are together, but they're like, I don't know how close they are, Another thing about this first scene is that like after that it just went straight to the credits, not the credits, but like it was like, and I was like, what's going on?
It was very long.
It was a very long intro credits, and I was like, okay, we've got introduced to these two characters. That isn't, and my impression of these two characters is that they're together, they're in a relationship, but the relationship isn't like super strong. and then all of a sudden it just jumps in the intro, and I'm just like, the intro just lasted seemingly like a very long time, and I'm just like, gosh, this is like interfering with the flow of this movie. Like, I don't know, like, what is going on right now. Like, I don't know, like, yeah. So like, the intro is on, and then it jumps to I think Theo and Patrick. They are going in and
That
as
yeah, going into yeah, they just entered the home.
they just entered the home.
Yeah.
And then another thing about this, and this is more of an aside that I was kind of confused of, was that I didn't know that it was a Thaddeus. His name's Thad.
Yeah, Thaddeus, but short form is Thad.
Thad, yeah. So Thad is actually, he's deaf, and so like the family was doing sign language, and I was like, wait a minute, wait, someone in this scene is deaf, and I don't know who's deaf. Like, I'm just like, because I saw the sign language, and well, okay, I saw this the they were doing like, they were doing sign language, and at the time I was like, wait a minute, are they doing sign language? Because I can't tell if they're just doing gestures or sign language. And then as the scene unfolded more and more, there was like more sign language coming out, and I was like, okay, someone in this scene is like, someone has to be deaf, and I don't know who's deaf. Like, I couldn't tell if it was like, I narrowed it down between Thad and Patrick. Like, I didn't know which one of them was deaf, so then I had like pause the film, go to the Wikipedia, look at the family, and it's like, oh, this Thad is deaf. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. And I realized later that he is deaf because when he tries speaking, it's very like warped, as in he doesn't like know how he sounds. So like, that made more sense. But in the beginning, I was like, I don't know what the context, like, why are they doing sign language? Who's deaf? Like, what's going on? So I was a little confused. I had to pause the film and look it up a bit, which was for me is a big note. Like I had to interrupt the movie again, and like twice in the intro. Once because of the freaking long intro credits and the cut to the intro, and then two because I didn't know who was like, why they were doing sign language and who they were directing it to for. So anyway, the intro was a bit not confusing, but like there was a lot of context that I feel like I missed out on, and that I wish there was less interruptions. But yeah, going back to your point about the whole like not cringy, but there's stuff that like you didn't really like in terms of dynamics, in terms of like the Ben going after Everett's girlfriend and Everett going after Meredith's sister. I thought that like, from the very get-go, I thought that Everett was not going to end up with Meredith. Like, I already knew that, like, something was going to happen, because I knew it was a drama and I knew it was a comedy. So for me, I was like, oh, I'm waiting for this to happen. I'm waiting to see where this is going to go. The only part that I felt was unnatural in the very beginning was the part where, like, Ben was just, like, going after Meredith, Everett's girlfriend, in the very beginning, with, like, the whole, like, mug scene and just, like, standing outside the car. I thought that was a little awkward and a little forced. But other than that, I think everything else was like, fell pretty naturally. Like, in terms of like, oh, Julie literally fell for Everett off the bus. Like, she literally fell off the bus. So like, all right, cool. They're gonna probably like, end up together. And then like, Meredith stormed out of the house because she after the dinner from Christmas Eve because of like, her awkward talk about like, her very awkward conversation that the family ended up blowing up on her about.
That also because of, I think, the verbal abuse from Amy, right? Like, Amy trying to set up the situation where calling Meredith a racist during charades, right? She was,
But this was like, okay, I guess it's like a conglomeration of events, but like the one where they're having dinner at Christmas Eve. Where she was talking about like children and like whether or not that one's the one where like she like wanted to get out, like she wanted to drive away, right? And then it was like Ben who actually just went went for her, like went to go to console her and drive her to the bar, and then that's where they had this whole like where they were connecting really naturally. I thought that was very nice. And then of course like Julie needs to go Everett needs to go find Meredith. And then Julie's like, oh, I'll come along with you. And then, of course, that's like, they're connecting in that scene. So I thought, like, from then on, I thought it was, like, somewhat natural that each pair was, like, connecting with each other. Also, I really liked the scene where Meredith got drunk in the bar and then the song started playing and it was like, this is my song. That song, I don't know if you've seen this movie, but there was a movie called An Extremely Goofy Movie. It was a Disney movie. And the credits, like this song, that brought back so many good memories because this song that was played for like Meredith's dance song was the ending credits song for an extremely goofy movie. And I remember as a kid when I watched that movie, I was like in the okay there's no one in chat right now, but for anyone who watches this, an extremely goofy movie is about like Goofy and his son Max and whatever. But at the end of that movie, they had this song plays, and it's called like Right Back Where I'm From or something like that. And it's like it brought back a lot of good memories. It brought back so many good memories, and I was like, right when that song played, I already knew my like for this movie increased a lot more because like first of all, the nostalgia came back. It is a good song, and like it was a very feel good moment, and I was like, I like this scene a lot. Because she was saying like that's my dance, that's my song. I'm like that's my song too. like oh my gosh, that was a great. I really liked it. It was a very like it made me like perk up, you know, like I was like, whoa, hold on, this song is amazing. Anyway, shout out to Extremely Goofy Movie. Chat, if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. It's a good movie film, very good animated film by Disney. But it's like pretty old. It's like 2000s, early 2000s. Anyway, going back. Yeah, so I thought the progression of both the relationships between Julie and Everett and Meredith and Ben were like pretty, from that point on, pretty natural. And I knew that the climax of the film was going to be that the resolution between like Everett and Meredith about their feelings, true feelings for each other. So, I thought the climax was well done. Like I said, the humor was there, as I described earlier, with the whole scene in between. So I think in terms of execution, I think like for the most part, like it doesn't. It's not like sure. It's realistically, if you were to think of this film realistically, like you know, there's a lot of situations where this could have gone wrong, right? If Meredith or Everett were like still loyal to each other or like still liked each other, and then the other one was kind of like cheating on them, that you know that would be bad. But it was sort of one of those situations where like it was natural from both sides. They came to the same conclusion. It worked out. And you know there was some drama. There was some dramatic moments throughout the film. But the journey was, I think, very like. I mean, yeah, it was the journey. The journey was there, like it was like natural enough to be believable, but like also it had these moments where like you could like it could take you out of that like the seriousness of it. Like it is meant to be lighthearted, so I guess I didn't really take the film too seriously, and I appreciated like the direction it was going from the like I said, scene one, like the relationship to me was like ain't gonna work out. I don't think it's gonna work out between these two. I just want to see how this unfolds, and it unfolded. So that's yeah.
There's something that you brought up with the whole scene with Everett and Julie when they were connecting, right? And
yeah.
that kind of scene, that kind of reminded me that I also want to point out that that sales scene was kind of weird to me because I thought, for someone who that was important to them, that they would care more, but they kind of forgot about her, right? Especially, one Julie, kind of just doesn't really care. Like she starts off with, she's in the family and she's not worried about her sister running off. It's like you would think she would be the first one to run after her sister, right? But she just kind of sits there at dinner and doesn't do anything when her sister runs off. Especially when she was when Julie was called because her sister needed her at the dinner, right? When Meredith went off, it's not Everett who, I mean, it makes sense that Everett didn't run after her, right? Because he just felt uncomfortable at the whole outburst. Yeah. But Julie doesn't run after her own family, right? She just sticks at dinner, and then when they're trying to find her, she doesn't really do anything much. And even then, when she doesn't call back, she's not even worried at all. right? So this is a girl that just where's that family dynamic between its two sisters? And then Everett is another thing where he just he kind of says, oh, I have to go after her, look for her. Doesn't really care, but that he kind of made sense for Everett, right? He's not really feeling that connection at the moment anymore.
Yeah.
But Julie doesn't have that it was obvious that at least it seemed obvious that these two sisters were close, right? Because first Meredith wanted comfort with her sister coming here, and her sister also breaking her own Christmas plans and willing to come to a stranger's house, right? But then
well, to be fair, it was Meredith who wanted Julie to come, right? Julie didn't actually want to come.
Right, but she still came, right? She still
came from Meredith's request. Yes.
Yeah. She still came at the request of her sister to be in an uncomfortable environment when she didn't want to be there, right? So she was obviously willing to bend backwards for her sister at that point. But when her sister was obviously in distress, runs out, right? Julie doesn't defend her sister. Maybe her.
Well, okay, we don't really know how strong. Like, okay, in this situation.
Strong.
Oh, hold on. Before we discuss this point, when something this awkward happens, like in the moment, in reality, people are just usually like trying to process the information, right? They're not they're like more like paralyzed with like trying to figure out what's going on rather than a reactionary I gotta go help, right? Also, Julie didn't necessarily know how to go after, because she knew that Meredith drove away, right? Julie doesn't have a car, right? Julie's not going to be like, hey family, let's drive me to wherever Julie's going to go, right?
She runs out the house and gets to a car, and you hear her crashing into the tree.
But Ben goes after her. I guess
Ben goes after her. Shouldn't Julie also go after her at that point? Family, you see one guy, shouldn't you also go back and check on your family? That's what I thought. I thought she should have at least been more like a sister at that point. It didn't feel like she was it just felt like, oh, this is setting up for the moment. Yeah, it's setting up for the moment where Julie is with Everett, but at the same time it just felt awkward that Julie was not checking on her sister, who's in obvious emotional distress. She was obviously not taking it anymore, and she just leaves dinner. If it was my sibling, I would go after her. It's like, oh, they needed help, but she just sits there and awkward and just.
Well, maybe she thought that as Ben went after her, she would be alright. I will say that I did find it odd that no one was wondering where Ben was throughout.
That is true.
When they're like, oh, where's Meredith? Where's Meredith? And then Ben's missing the whole time, but no one knows where he is.
And that's the other thing. Ben seems like an outsider in this family. And maybe that it kind of was established, right? He's kind of like a stoner or whatever, but he's he's still kind of loved, right? Especially you see how he kind of hugs his mother, says he loves her, he has his emotional moment with his dad.
Yeah.
But other than those, some of these points, he kind of seems like an outsider to this whole family. He's not really part of it. The whole family is seen as very, very close. They banter, or they're hugging.
Yeah.
And then there's Ben, who doesn't really share the same values, and he seems like he wasn't raised in the same household. And maybe that's because maybe he was trying to be his own different personality and tries to be his own independent. That can explain it, right? But this whole family seems very, very close to each other, except for Ben.
Maybe that's why Ben connects with Meredith.
Yeah, maybe so. Chris was an outsider, but everyone in this family seems very close, except for Ben, and they just how they interact with each other, and they don't care for, they don't question about him or where he is, as you said, and he does his own thing, and nobody worries about him, and he's just I don't know if he's the second or third oldest, but he just does his own thing. He doesn't really interact. There's not really that kind of closeness shown until they start fighting, right? The sibling, Everett and Ben start chasing around into the house and just start play slapping. But other than that, there was really no interaction with Ben with the rest of the family. It's just he kind of felt like an outsider, and maybe that's why he was more willing, or he moved on to Meredith, because he just didn't really care. But it just felt like he didn't fit the rest of the family dynamics with the rest of the family values who were really close. He was just kind of he felt a lot more independent, and maybe that's realistic because with such a large family, he wants to be kind of free and on himself, right? But at the time, it just felt like everyone else was kind of walking in step, but he just did not. And I know references before after the whole homophobic rant, right? Everyone was kind of affected or rattled by it, but he was not.
Yeah.
He was the only one who just didn't really care. So that he kind of felt like an outsider in his own family, and that could be explained, but again, that also kind of rattled me as well. So
Yeah. I mean, I can see your point about like Ben feeling like he's like feeling that Ben's like an outsider in his own family. I mean, I think that like there are enough moments in the film that like kind of solidified his like his not necessarily his role but his place in the family. Like you had the scene where like he was with his dad alone, and his dad was like, "Yo, you want these brownies or something?" And I thought it was kind of endearing. And then like that's when he figures out, or his dad tells him that like mom's sick, and then he has this like touching moment with his mom right after like embraces mom. So the love is there. Like it's not like they're like
right.
you know maybe he's he's definitely like contrasted with his brother like Everett a lot, right? His Everett's very like he appears to be more like uptight, and like more like he's running for mayor or something, puts out like a public more sophisticated public appearance than
Right,
Ben.
right.
But I don't know. I thought that like for the most part Ben like I think what this film did pretty well was that there were throughout the film there were always these like small touching moments between at least the mother and each of her children at some point. And I thought that was very well done.
I agree. I would
Like
agree
it
with
was subtle, it didn't extend its stay. It was like even though it wasn't necessarily like perhaps central to the plot of like Meredith and Everett's relationship, and however like the mother was still like a very big key factor in terms of like bringing the glue for this family.
Yeah.
And I think there was a moment with every one of the children, because there was that moment with like of course Everett and Sybil, like the mother, they had the moment, and then of course Ben and the mother had a moment. The mom and Thad at dinner, like when she did the sign language to say like, "Oh, I will love you. I will always love you. You are accepted." After like Meredith's awkward conversation, that was the moment. Of course, like Mother and Amy, and near the end with the picture.
Oh yeah.
Of the baby,
That's
yeah,
cool.
like that was beautiful. I think actually, I wonder if that picture was a real life picture of Diane Keaton. I'm like,
Apparently it was. It was
okay.
just altered to make her look pregnant.
It was
But that
altered
a real
documentary.
picture.
Okay, I see. Yeah, I was like not surprised. I was like, I bet that's a real picture of her. And then even with the older sister, I forget her name, but and the mother,
Susanna.
Susanna, yes, because Susanna, when the mother was taking a nap, and then Susanna went up to like find her,
Yeah.
and then comfort her, and then she asked the mother asked her like Susanna like, oh, does anyone else know? And I was like, oh boy, what's going on? There's a bit of side tension right there. Like
Yeah.
what's going on with them? I actually thought at the very beginning I was like, wait a minute, is there something with Susanna like that we don't know about? Because I thought it was about Susanna, not about Sybil, the mother. But eventually, like it was, revealed, right? But like
Very next scene. Yeah.
very next scene, exactly, yeah. And like each of these small moments that just came about with the mother being like the glue for this family, I just thought it was like really well done. And yeah, it was one of those like definitely more endearing moments where I'm like made me a bit emotional, especially the one with Everett. I think that one was like very
that one again. I call for the other. That scene really got to me.
Everett the actor for Everett, whatever his name is, like he did a good job in that scene. Like when his crying came out, I was like, oh no. He did a very good job. I thought that was like one of the best, like
it was
good acting. That was very good acting from his part in that scene.
And you touch on all these good family points and whatnot, and yeah, you're right. I agree. Like a lot of the family moments they're showing was very small, but also showed a very good connection, especially with as you said, the mother, and the mother was a whole sticking point. I think also was the whole point of this movie, right? To show how the mother was being loved, and they showed these relationships because the mother was going to pass on, right? So they wanted to show this connection with her and her children.
Yep.
And I think the first scene kind of where we show how much she cares for her family was actually the very first scene that she was introduced when Dad comes, right? She's sitting at the table, and when she sees the interaction between Dad and the dad, she has this loving look in her eye, like, oh, this is my family, and she really cared about them. And that also actually really stood out to me. That's the very first scene. We see that she really cares about her family.
Yeah.
But and then obviously later on it had a double meaning, right? Because she loves her family, but it's also because she's appreciating, she's taking in these scenes of love between her family and who her children are interacting and whatnot. But I thought that was kind of made sense of that scene. So I agree, like a lot of the family moments really touched me as well, how it was going on.
Yeah.
But you also brought up one sister, Susanna. Kind of very minor role.
Yep.
She had her own child.
Yep.
And I don't really know what she played. I mean, she was kind of like the neutral sister, right? Nothing really happened. Nothing really interacted.
Yeah.
She was just kind of there. And I think
she was there because she had the child, and the child was
had a child to bring some youthful innocence, or some kind of exactly a child there. Just bring some age diversity, right? Someone have someone young and someone who's pregnant with a baby along the way.
Yeah.
But she didn't really add much to the movie. Her prominent scene was with her, in bed with the mother, right? Trying to be comforted, right? That was a very touching scene. Was pregnant, but she added some quips and was kind of just like there. She's just like a neutral, like kind of middle child.
Yep.
And it didn't really add to the dynamic. So the whole which makes sense. The whole family was already pretty crazy, and there was a lot going on. She was just another person there, and her husband wasn't there either. It doesn't come into the
it doesn't come into the very. I honestly thought there was gonna be when the mother, and the nap scene where like the mother was talking like, does anyone else know? I actually thought there was gonna be some drama between Susanna and her husband, because her husband wasn't there until like the very end. I thought, wait, where is this husband? Like, why is he coming in so late? Is there gonna be some last minute family drama between those two in there? But I mean, it was resolved very quickly because like I said, the next scene kind of touched on the mother's sickness or illness. But yeah, you're right. I mean, the character was very much the most neutral out of everyone. I mean, to be fair, I think the only reason they kind of had her was like, she's probably going to be the oldest one with a baby. And we needed that kid in there somehow. And it can't be anyone else's kid because no one else is married.
Yeah. And it can't. Yeah, exactly. It can't be anyone else's kid, right? Because Everett is about bringing the girlfriend, right? Ben is going to be hitting on Meredith. Dad and Patrick. We need them to have the whole bit where Meredith goes off on children and whatnot, and Amy's just too young, who's the rebellious kind of teenager who kind of foments all this tension.
Yeah. Right? And thanks to Meredith, Amy, finds her love. So kind of poetic in a sense. Even though Amy hated her guts in the very beginning.
That is true.
That whole like throat clearing sequence. It's pretty funny. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, this film I think if you really look into like, if there are parts where if you can't get past the comedy or can't get past the lightheartedness and you would take it more seriously, there are definitely parts where it's like, it doesn't make sense. I don't like how this is playing out. Like, realistically, this is like, quote unquote could be like, people are unfaithful, inappropriate, or whatever. But like, I think it really like, in that sense, it does touch on a bit of realism because like families aren't like perfect. There's going to be those dynamics where there's going to be like awkwardness, or someone's going to feel uncomfortable, or like hopefully it's not like to this extreme, or to like people are like siblings are hitting on each other's significant others, but like Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately this film was meant to be like very lighthearted, so like I don't think it's meant to be taken too seriously, which is why I appreciated it. But I can see how like if you do kind of like go into the finer details of it, it definitely does. It can be off-putting in a sense. Um, I don't know. I like I said, I like this film a lot, and this is going to be something that we're going to disagree on, just because of like I think our different maybe our different ways of appreciating comedy.
Yeah, comedy is very subjective, right?
It's very subjective.
Some
Yeah.
people have can appreciate different things, and my sense of humor is very very different. Or I feel like it's more stricter
Yeah, you're
than most people.
uptight, dude. You're uptight.
Yeah, I am. So like when I go into, I mean, if obviously some movies I can appreciate, like we watched Ramen Girl, and I really appreciate.
I was gonna
that.
say like we watched some comedies for Ramen Girl. You liked Ramen Girl,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I did.
Yeah.
And I just I did. It was a very fun movie. With some with some stylistic differences, but the comedy was there with the Ramen Girl. But with just this movie, just sometimes the comedy did not, just the way that they're presenting with like the family dynamics just didn't work with me. And I just thought it was just not just unrealistic. Movies are unrealistic in itself, right? They're there to set up to tell a story. It just didn't, the dynamics didn't didn't make sense. And I just didn't find it funny. I just thought either it was just cringe worthy, or just like I feel bad just how unfortunate things were going, and I just had a lot of sympathy, or I just thought, oh, this is I just thought there was a lot of moments where I just could not laugh, and I just could not find it funny. I was just like, oh no, this is not working for me. So
Yeah. Um. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's fair. If we look back at like our previous film, so there was another film we watched called The Little Women that we kind of disagreed on. That one was a drama, right? That was a drama film, and I thought it was. I remember you really liked it because you thought it was a nice. You thought that the family dynamic was very good or something,
Yeah.
and you thought that it was like the plot was like there, like there's something happening. And to me, I didn't think there was any plot. Like I just thought it was just like a day to day life of this family that I wasn't really invested in.
Yeah.
And it was meant to be a drama, but I didn't really think there was anything dramatic happening. There was no like context. There was no like push for plot or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe our interpretations of like what we like think of a comedy and a drama are very different when it comes to like how we would what we like about those kind of genres. It's pretty interesting. Also, another fun fact is that the two films that we've disagreed on the most have this one actress in it. So, I mean, it's coincidental, I'm pretty sure, but it's pretty funny to see. So, if there's ever an act,
it's also how I think how family is maybe handled, right? Like both movies about family, but one is more historical drama piece and one is more comedic, right? And then how that I think kind of maybe is attuned to our own likes of the genres and whatnot.
Well, but wait, are these the only two films we've seen that have families involved with them? Because I think there has to be at least like one more, right?
Well, I think these are the two movies where there are big families, right? And now I'm taking a look at our list, right? Because like with Little Woman, there was a very large family with four sisters, right?
Yeah.
And then with Family Stone, 5 siblings, right? So these are, I think, I'm looking at our list, and I think these are the ones.
There's one of
no,
those.
that's not true. Our idiot brother had
3 sisters and 1 dude. Yeah.
3 sisters, one.
And it was a comedy. I don't know if we both thought it was okay. So
yeah, we both thought it was all right. It was we both rated it as a 7.
So.
So.
Okay, interesting.
But maybe the defining trait was with Claire Danes.
Claire Danes. All right, if she's in a film, we're probably 2 out of 2 right now. What else did she appear in? Anyway, yeah. So like, what are your final thoughts on this film? I think we are probably near the end of this discussion because I think we talked about like, for the most part, like the most prominent parts of this film, like the entire relationship between Meredith and Everett, how it unfolded between Ben and or between like how their relationship kind of led their incompatibility of the relationship led to spawning of two different relationships between Everett and Julie and Meredith and Ben, and of course the whole different dynamic of the mother and even the father and their children throughout this whole family holiday season. So like, yeah, I think we touched upon all of it. We had our disagreements. There are parts that you didn't like that I liked. And there are parts, so on and so forth. And I think it's like maybe like our interpretation of the film and how we interpret comedy. So like, what are your closing thoughts? How would you rate this film? How would you make it better?
Right.
Because I'm sure you have something to say about that.
Yeah. No. So yeah, I think well, this movie was called The Family Stone, and I think it references to the engagement ring, right? Yeah, that Sybil has of the
The
mother,
poster,
right? And
the
I think,
poster of the film is the ring.
right, exactly,
Yep.
exactly. And I think maybe not that I might have going more on the drama route. If they try to focus more on the not the history of the ring, but just like the way that the ring was going to be passed around. It kind of was just touched upon, and it's interesting that they made that the title of the movie. But I guess in terms of just saying like, oh, who is the right woman, it kind of makes sense. So I kind of appreciate that the irony of the title, but I don't think that kind of say. I just want to add that my 2 cents on that. That's just the title of the film, because I thought that was interesting that they called it the title in that movie, but it was a very light portion. But at the same time, it kind of made sense with just how the Family Stone was just about who was he going to give this engagement ring to, right? And the whole point of the movie was just him figuring out that Meredith's not the one and finding Julie instead, and the whole drama that ensued after that.
Also, I don't know if you noticed, but at the very end, it wasn't Everett or Julie who had the ring, right? Or like Everett giving Julie the ring. It was Amy who had the ring.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
I don't know if I caught on to that.
At least according to the Wikipedia article, apparently Amy is wearing her mother's ring.
Oh.
I mean, it kind of makes sense because like the very last shot is of the mother Sybil, and then of course with the pregnant Amy, or she's pregnant with Amy. So like,
oh, I don't think I noticed. I mean, that would probably have been a great subtle move. I did not notice. Oh wow, now I'm kind of sad that I didn't.
See, this film is better than you expected.
Well, I might the Wikipedia card claims, but I didn't know it. It would be nice to maybe be more prominent. I mean, that's done to the whole showing no telling thing, but I just flew over my head. And
the whole meaning of this film flew over your head, Austin. I'm just kidding. Yeah. But anyway, I believe Amy had the ring at the very end, her mother's ring.
It would be nice to call that out, or just be a little bit more. It flew over my. Maybe I was just out of it at that point.
I can't wait. This film is finally over. It's done.
That would have been I think a great move to see if she found someone worthy. But yeah, like none of the older brothers would get it, or Everett didn't get it, just because he's not married and is seeing the sister. But yeah, so going back to I guess my closing thoughts and final remarks, rating and what I would improve. I'll go with what I improve. Wow, I would like to improve. You all already know my thoughts. So I think I think a lot of the family dynamics I would have kind of like changed, or in terms of like how the roles would be played. I think at the offset, I probably would have tried to establish more of a brotherly bond between Everett and Ben, and I think we kind of touched on this, at least in the introduction, just showing a little bit more closer, a little bit more remarks, but also in terms of just having Ben kind of be more integrated in the family, or not hit on Meredith so soon, right? I think it would have been a little bit more, if they had more, if they were talking a little bit more, or a little bit more natural in terms of just their interactions, and maybe they find things that they're comfortable with. I did like a scene where not that I liked it, but I appreciated that she opens up when Ben starts talking to her. But I think that should have been led more instead of having him outright be like smitten and just trying to hit on her.
Yeah.
I think it would have been great if he showed a little bit more reluctance because oh, this is my brother, I shouldn't be doing it. But then he kind of falls for this girl, and then that would have I think felt a little bit more natural to me and not as uncomfortable because like that natural spark is coming, not just because this guy's lusting after his brother's wife or his brother's girlfriend, but he kind of falls in love, and then he also sees that his brother and Meredith, Everett and Meredith are not good together, and then he kind of, and then the whole drama and comedy can ensue after that. But I think just the first introduction where he's not coming on to her immediately would have made me a little bit more feel comfortable with this movie. And then I think the same with the relationship between Everett and Julie. Maybe I think it's just maybe changing Julie's role altogether. I'm not making her a sister, maybe making her a very good friend of Meredith. Just because I just didn't like the way that she acted.
You think you think a friend would go over to be like, hey, can you come over to this family for Christmas?
Yeah, for something very, very close. I just did not.
Okay, I don't think that would have been very okay, go on. Sorry, I don't know.
And no, it did not. Just the way she did not act like a sister, or maybe she's a friend of Iris who pops by. I just did not. It did not. Her role or just who she was playing. I mean, she was a good actress. It's just the way that she interacted with all these characters did not make sense with me. Right? She doesn't go after her sister. She kind of falls for Everett, even though she knows that her sister was, smitten with this guy, and like the whole family dynamic was just not there. It felt so. Changing who she was would have been better. So either making her a really good friend of either or character, either be a good friend of Everett or be a good friend of Meredith, who comes along or maybe is in the area and drops by. That would be a little bit more. I was like, this is not someone. This kind of explain reactions. Maybe she's not. Maybe she's not family, so she's not going to run after. But maybe she's trying to help her afterwards, and go with Everett, and then maybe make that connection with Everett at a later point in time. So changing her role and who she is, because I thought they kind of settled that these families are close, but she kind of does not take actions. I feel like that a sister would do. Or at least a sister who was established to be as close would do. And she kind of ignores the whole dynamic. So changing that, that's what I would kind of just her role, like who she would be playing, and maybe there would be another way to manipulate the movie in itself. But yeah, I think and then I think my most problematic character in this whole movie was Ben, and just how he interacted. And I think he was the one who made me not enjoy this movie as much. It was his character, and it is the way he interacted with everybody, and the reactions and the consequences to Ben, or that Ben did with everyone else, that really kind of stuck out to me, and just really made me enjoy. Like every character I was okay with. How they interacted with, but even if Amy was kind of unfair, I thought to Meredith, and how I was just like, oh wow, this she was she really was really mean, and she's a character who was made to be kind of unlikable in the family in the role, but I thought, okay, that made sense. Like she maybe more protective of the family, or just being difficult for the sake of being difficult. It's her personality. But Ben, just as not just as his character's personality, just really grinded my gears, and it did not work with me. And I would maybe change again. I always said change how he's introduced, maybe, and show just a little bit more family. But there's a lot of the points in the movie where I did enjoy, like the very small set of family moments. I think that worked well, and then how it kind of immediately goes into some of these comedic or kind of drastic situations. That worked well, right? Again, the flow of the movie, right? You have some of these serious moments with a lot of tension. You break the tension with some of these comedic moments, and that kind of works well in a comedy, and I appreciate that form that they're able to do that, in a good great way. Break tension and create tension. But just maybe I think Ben was just the one character who I would drastically change and improve upon to make this movie a little bit better, and just the whole dynamics of the brothers liking other women. Faithfulness also didn't sit well with me, but I understand that's probably the whole point of the movie, the title of being Family Stone. So just changing how each person played their part, or who was playing which part, I think would have maybe made it just a little bit better.
Just a little bit better.
Yeah. but then I might not have like the movie at all. And comedies is the whole thing. But yeah. So my rating for this movie, I think I just throughout this whole film, I just was not enjoying it. And I said there's many points in the film where I just needed to stop. I just wanted to stop and just like I can't do this anymore. So my rating for this film would be a 4.5.
Okay, all right. All right, cool. Okay, I'm gonna go into my discussion of it. Yeah, so I enjoy this movie. So I'm for sure going to give it more than a 5 because I enjoyed it, at least. And I think I would also like recommend it. I think it's a feel good Christmas movie. So if you're in the holidays and you want to watch a family movie Christmas, I would recommend it. If you like comedies, if you like dramas, I think family dramas, family comedies, I would also recommend this film. Yeah, I mean, there's some prominent actors too. If you like Diane Keaton, if you like, who else? Rachel McAdams. I can't think of anyone else who was like. But yeah, if you like some of these actors, they do a good job. I mean, the acting is pretty good. It's fine. Yeah, so the things that I would improve in this film. One is I would make the intro credits shorter, and maybe not place it like right in between, like the intro sequence and then like the next, because it was. Maybe that intro credits was meant to isolate that intro scene to give you a sense of like, oh, there's this couple, but they don't seem that close. Like, sure, but I think that like the length at least of the intro credits kind of like was a bit, it interrupted the flow of the movie, and it sort of made me
very
like
long. And it wasn't even like showing any like background footage.
Yeah, it wasn't even
just,
any
like,
background footage.
Like,
Yeah,
or
it was just
drawing
like
or animate like a wallpaper kind of thing.
Right. And so like like in an intro of anything, like if anything that's visual, you kind of want to like grab an audience's attention. This film didn't do that very well. Like I was like, I'm watching intro now, and in the beginning I was like, oh, okay, there's this couple that's not interested, and bam, intro credits. I'm like, oh, didn't seem like it really grabbed my attention. Like I don't know what's
movie's over.
Yeah, it's like where's the movie? So I think the placement of the intro credit. I mean, this is just more of a nuance, more of an execution thing. Yeah, I think it would have. I don't know if it would. I mean, this is also more of a nuance thing, but like in terms of like the sign language and Thad being deaf, I think it would have been nice to like have a little bit more context behind who was deaf and like, because then I would have like, at least for me, I would have known like what the sign language was there for and why, like who was the one that was like taking it in, because I didn't really know who it was until like I had to search it up, but maybe it was obvious to you and it was just me that just didn't know.
I think I just waited it out, and I
just waited it out.
to see
Okay.
who was speaking. I was like, okay, it's like I think I agree. It's like, oh, somebody is deaf here, but I just didn't realize until I think that was talking with the father.
Yeah.
So I
just waited it out. Okay.
Was a little bit more patient than
you were. Patient, yeah. Okay. Maybe it's just me. I maybe tried to be patient. Anyway, it's a nuance. Maybe it would have been nice to have a little bit more context. Whatever, it doesn't really matter. In the long run, the grand scheme of things. I think the ending was well done. I think the climax was well done. I think the build up to the climax could have maybe been a bit better in terms of like, maybe it could have shown like Everett and Meredith having like not fights, but like you could see that more of like these interactions to kind of tell the audience that they're not compatible with each other. Like there's definitely like not something there, giving you a sense that like, okay, it's perhaps that maybe they're forcing it and it's not going to be like, even if they do get married, that it wouldn't turn out well.
Actually, I kind of also want to, sorry to interrupt, but I kind of also want to put into that point. I think you're going on somewhere good with that, because I think it would have been great to see that breaking apart, because it's not that Everett falls out of love with Meredith, it's that he falls in love with Julie at that point, right? I think it would have been better to see that more moment. But I think Yeah, no, I think there would have been, yeah, as you said, a little bit more moments of that where they're not compatible or not stepping in sync. I think what really brought it home was just the whole rant that Meredith was doing about the children not being gay. That kind of really fell apart. But but even before that, I think would have been better. But first introduction between Everett and Julie was just like, oh, he's smitten when she gets off that bus, just by how she looks.
Right.
So.
I mean, she fell for him.
Let's
be real here. Let's be real here. There was, I mean, that's done on that. That's literally that's part of the comedy, I suppose. But
yeah, sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to put that in.
Yeah, I think Ben's role. I think Ben could have. I mean, the only part that maybe could have been better is like maybe they just took out that scene where he's just like awkwardly standing with the gave her the mug and just awkwardly standing outside the car while she's like drinking coffee. Like that was a bit weird. I think they could have just probably done away with that scene. I think it was meant to be comedic, but like I said, I mean, it's a bit awkward. Yeah, they could have just maybe gone away with that scene. Maybe a little bit more interaction between Ben and Everett in terms of like, or maybe like Ben noticing that like Everett and Meredith are like really not compatible with each other. And sort of like he because he realized there was a scene at the very end when Everett's chasing Ben after Meredith thinks that Ben slept with her.
Yeah.
And they're going around the house and Ben's like, she never loved you or something, like she didn't even like you. And then I was like, okay, well, maybe like they could. I don't know how true that was. Well, I mean, I don't know if like Ben really got that sense. Maybe there was like this off-screen time where Meredith was like talking to him about like her true feelings. They could have maybe introduced that so then Ben would realize that like Meredith, in her drunken state, because she got really drunk. Maybe there could have been a little bit more like conversation between the two where there's a little context of like what Meredith's true feelings for Everett were, and Ben overhears that and realizes that like it wouldn't have worked well, right? So having that bit of context would have probably helped. But yeah, those are just like smaller additions to like trying to just basically adding more context to like the build up between the budding relationship between Ben and Meredith and Julie and Everett, or more so like the sort of distancing between Meredith and Everett to like spawn these two new relationships. I think a little bit more context on both sides would have helped, and it would have made like maybe how you interpret it as like unfaithfulness or whatnot could have been a bit more like it would have been a bit more like natural, I suppose. I don't know.
Maybe, yeah.
But those are just smaller changes I would have made. I don't think I would have made any too many big changes in terms of execution or editing. Because I mean, I thought that like from like halfway point, from the point where Julie and Everett are like walking together and Ben and Meredith are at the bar, from that point onward to the end of the film, I thought it was just like well done. Like basically everything after that whole like blow up scene with the dinner table, I think was good. Was well done. Maybe could have had Julie go after Meredith in the car or whatever, and then Ben's like, oh hey, like let me just take her to a place or like a bar, and then Julie's like, all right, cool, got it. Let me know when you guys are back or whatever, blah blah blah, and then they could have driven off. Maybe like I still think that dynamic between sister was there. I don't think it would have been as realistic if Julie was a friend. Like I just don't think that a friend would just randomly come over, however close they are, right? Because it's Christmas. Like you were gonna choose your friend over family. I don't know. Maybe some people would, right? But like, if this film is about family, like I don't know how realistic a friend choosing another random family would be. Now that being said, like Ben came over to like swoon Amy at the very end on Christmas Day, right? So I could have been right. It could have been, but I feel like from that point it was like Julie didn't want to go. Meredith asked her to go. Julie kind of resented her for asking, but she accepted in the end. And so maybe like Julie didn't really like Meredith was having problems, and Julie was not as sympathetic because she was like, I had to come all this way just to be with you, and you're like screwing things up. But so that whole point where you say like, oh, Julie doesn't act like a sister, like I think it was for the most part fine, because like I think the act of like coming over to be with her on Christmas Day, like not being with their family, like sacrificing that was already enough. So
already not. Yeah, your sister's distressed. You're not gonna.
I mean, she did care. She did go with Everett to go find her. Yeah, after she was processing it. It was like it wasn't like she just ignored.
Your sister just runs off. Oh, I don't need to help her. She can go.
It's called alone time. She won't need to process alone time. Like
doesn't even check if she's okay. Like
she does check if she's okay. She's trying to call her. Oh my. All right. Anyway.
To the story.
Sure, we could have added a scene where Julia goes right to Meredith at the very end, tries to catch up on her, and then Ben comes up and is like, "Oh, you let me take her to somewhere like, not I don't know." But yeah, anyway, so yeah, there's just a couple of small changes. I think overall the way that I would rate this film, now I think I would have given it an 8, but I'm gonna give it a plus 0.5 because I really like that song. That song that came up just added nostalgia, and I was like, I really enjoyed it. I'm biased, by the way. This is a 0.5 of a bias coming in. I give it an 8.5.
8.5?
Yes, sir.
Really? Wow.
Like I said, I enjoyed this film. The comedy was great. The climax was great. The subtle family, like the subtle family interactions were good. Like there could have been a little bit more context between how like the relationship between Ben and Meredith unfolded, or like how Julie and Everett unfolded. But like for the most part, I mean, I in the very beginning I didn't think that Meredith and Everett were going to be like a thing, because that first scene just like it just seemed so isolated and so like right. prominent, that because of this long intro credits scene, that I'm like, they're not compatible. So just waiting for like what's going to happen to cause this like cause them to split, and it happened. So and it was funny along the way with a good themes of family, by the way, acceptance and love. So I enjoyed it. 8.5. Probably would have given it an 8 realistically, but like I gave it 8.5 because I really like that song. So it's a good nostalgia factor. And you give it a 4.5. So yeah, we had a big difference right there.
Very big difference. I think you might have laughed a lot, and I don't think I've laughed at much at all.
I definitely laughed a lot, especially in the second half of the film. Oh man, there was some of those films were so. Those awkward interactions were just so hilarious. I was like, oh my god, this is so funny.
Did not work with me.
Yeah, so it's a big difference. We have a contrasting view on this one. I think for the most part, I think critics say that this film was a 53, like a 5 or something, or more like 5.91, closer to 6. Our
average is a 6.5 then.
Yeah, so like it's probably closer to like what the critics think. CinemaScore gave it a B+. Rotten Tomatoes gives it a 53% with an average rating of 5.9. I don't know. I just liked it for its comedy. That's why I really liked it for. So, I mean, also the little family scenes too.
I wasn't laughing.
Don't worry, I was laughing for you.
Made up for it.
Made up for it, exactly. All right, cool. Well, that is essentially the end of our review of this film. My friend Austin didn't like it. He wouldn't. Would you recommend this film?
I probably would not recommend. I mean, if you're into like lighthearted comedy, maybe I would. But like, if you ask me, hey Austin, would you like this film? Do you think I should watch it? I'd probably say no. Don't do it. Don't watch it.
Okay, well that contrasts with me, because if someone asked me if they want to watch this film, I'd be like, go for it. If you like comedy, if you like family themes, if you like Christmas movies, by all means, go at it. I think it's a lighthearted film. Don't take it too seriously. That's probably something else, a caveat I would put into it as well. Um, so yeah, those of you who are interested in watching this, you have our opinions. One person who didn't like it, one person who did like it. Um, yep, that's about it. Do you have any last thoughts? Anything you want to say, Austin?
I do not. I think I covered a lot during my own discussion. So
You covered a lot. All
that'd
right.
be it.
Yeah.
That would be it.
That cool. Well, we'll be chat stream. Whoever's gonna watch this on the VODs later, we will just gonna finish up this discussion for the Family Stone. My friend and I, we stream every week Sunday at 11 a.m. Pacific time. We just discuss these films. We kind of give our opinions. We give a rating. We see like how we would improve on. Today was very contrasting. My friend didn't like it. I really liked it. So it was very nice to see this like sort of like clash of opinion. Normally we kind of have the similar opinion, but this time we didn't. And yeah, for the next film, we'll decide that after off stream. But I have put, for those of you who want to see like what film we're going to review next time, I have put it into the Twitch schedule. So if you go into my page, there's a schedule tab. You can see like every Sunday at 11 a.m. which film we're going to be discussing 1 week prior. So right after this, we're going to decide which film. I'm going to update the schedule. You'll see which ones. So if you've watched it before, you can come in, tune in, and see. For those of you who are following me. And then we also have a YouTube channel. It's called Yipatrick, Yipatrick. My friend here edits them and kind of eliminates the noise, does a little audio correction, and sort of puts it in as a YouTube video. So you can go to that if you want to watch it there. And what else? Shout out to IMDb TV. We watch these films on their service. They are free, but they have ads. That's the only caveat. That's about it for this stream. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And like I said, check out the schedule update for the next movie that we are going to watch next week. So that's about it. Thanks for tuning in. Have a good rest of your day, everyone. Or whenever you watch this.